Welcome to another episode of Wide World of Sodas. I'm Dave Sundstrom, and with me,
Scott Barnes.
I'll never get the reversey thing. Everything's reversed on camera. How could I do that? There we go. Yeah, Scott Barnes right there. Scott, what was it? Was it Greek food where we brainstormed today's topic?
Yeah, the Bountiful Greek Cafe. We were enjoying a little bite of lunch.
Yeah, that was really yummy. Thanks for suggesting it. Today's topic is 80s movies that we were surprised to discover that we hated because we were looking forward to them so much.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, but before we get launched into that discussion, you picked this out. Tell us a little bit about today's special soda.
So I was with my wife on a little road trip down to southern Utah, in a city called St. George, and they had a nice little ice cream / novelty shop down there, something that caters to the tourist, I'm sure. But in there, they just had rows and rows of fun sodas. And so I was excited to see some that I hadn't seen at places like Rocket Fizz and that kind of thing. So this one is called Leninade. And given we're doing 80s, I figured this was appropriate.
Perfect.
Soviet area, the hammer and sickle on the front. So hopefully it's a good tasting one.
Let's find out. Let's get hammered and sickled with Leninade.
And I have my Swiss Army knife here.
All right.
So I can open the bottle. There we go. And I did not bring a glass today. My kitchen's being remodeled, so I have nothing in the way of stores to put something in.
But you don't need a glass with this because it's in glass.
Wow.
Tart?
That is lemony.
Okay. Boy, it's bubbly too. I can hear it. Really, it's just like I cracked the
you
lid
can see
open
the bubbles on the top just coming up.
That is awesome. Ingredients are carbonated water, cane sugar, citric acid, and then a few other fun things that you typically find in soda. This is really good though. This is a great one, Scott. Good job.
I'm happy with that. That tastes really good.
And I can always tell when it's cane sugar versus the corn syrup. That's really yummy.
I'm a big fan of cane sugar.
Yeah, that's why the Mexican Cokes are so good. Yum.
There you go.
All right. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the order in which we want to go here. 80s movies we were just surprised to discover we hated so much. I know you have one from 1986. Do you remember the year on the other one?
It was 86 as well.
Okay, so we're going to go one of mine, two of yours, and then back to me for the last one, if that sounds good.
Sounds good.
And we'll get your reactions to the two that I was pretty excited for, and they let me down in a big way. I'm sure that your two are the same. First one is a little movie that came out in 1984 called Supergirl. And this film starred Helen Slater, and it was rumored that it would have a special guest appearance by Christopher Reeve. And in fact, he had been slated to show up as the Man of Steel, but a number of reasons, he would probably just say, darn good luck.
Was that around the time of his accident?
No.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, he would make another Superman movie after this. He would make Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which I think came out in 87, I want to say. And that movie is even worse than Supergirl.
Yeah, I was going to say we could add that to the list. But
right. But I wasn't surprised at all. By that time, we'd seen really a diminishment in quality from Superman 1 to 2. Some people think 2's better than 1. I don't. But 3 with Richard Pryor, it just wasn't as epic. It wasn't as... there was something there maybe in making it so comical with Richard Pryor's Gus Gorman computer programmer character. It just felt smaller. And Supergirl in 1984 tried to make it feel epic again, at least at first. You had scenes on Krypton and with Peter O'Toole. And it was interesting because Helen Slater's supposed to be this young teenager, but she never seems like a young teenager in those opening scenes. And it's just a mess from beginning to end. This film it's not good. And it's sad because Helen Slater, I actually really like her as an actress. I thought she was great in Secret of My Success, The Legend of Billie Jean. There were a number of movies during the 80s that she was really good in. This movie, which could have been a franchise for her if it had been great, not so much. Faye Dunaway's the villain, who's like a evil witch. They didn't really get many of the actors from Superman 1, 2, or 3 to show up. We have I think his name's Mark McClure, who played Jimmy Olsen, shows up in this movie. But it's just sadly not a good movie. I had huge expectations for it, and it let me down. How about you? Have you ever seen Supergirl?
I honestly don't remember seeing it, to be honest with you, but no, you're right. She was great in Secret of My Success. That was
fun.
Awesome.
It simply didn't last long in the theaters. It was not only a critical flop, but it was a commercial flop, not making very much money at all. And some things that it was just, I think it was apparent to audiences that the care and the love that had been invested into Superman 1 and 2, those two movies in particular, really absent. Special effects were kind of corny. The acting was horrible, like I said. And Supergirl was a one and done until, Scott, and I don't know if you've seen this, but in The Flash, which came out, a couple years ago now, there is a scene at the end where all sorts of universes are colliding, and we see Adam West's Batman briefly, and we see Nicolas Cage's Superman, and along with those characters we also see both Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as Superman and Supergirl. So she does make one final appearance. She also, for folks that are fans of the Supergirl television series, she played Supergirl's earthly mother in that show, Helen Slater. So there's some good things that came out of it, but the time spent sitting in that darkened theater watching really crappy movie, that wasn't one of them.
Supergirl has the ability to save millions upon millions of lives with her great superpowers. Americans have the ability to save thousands of lives, one at a time.
16,000 people die each year in car crashes that don't have to. Safety belts could save their lives. Safety belts could also prevent thousands from being horribly disfigured or crippled for life. So buckle up. Your life is in your hands.
All right, your turn, Scott. Give us the first of your movies that came out in 1986 that disappointed you immensely.
So, on the heels of Star Wars and all of that kind of stuff, George Lucas had made a great name for himself, right? Mm-hmm. And so there was a movie coming out, and it plays into the whole superhero, but Marvel Comics genre, is Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. Oh, man.
So,
with Leah Thompson. I was going to say great movie, but no. Yeah, Tim Robbins, you're right.
And so it's, here we go. It's George Lucas. It's based off of a comic book, and you've got this superhero character, and you go in and it stunk. It was just awful. And you've got this anthropomorphic duck that's maybe 4 feet tall, maybe. And Leah Thompson falls in love with him. And
interspecies romance. There's an interspecies romance. And it's weird. Okay, that's one of the things that just doesn't work on film. It does not work on film.
Yeah, it probably worked in the comic book just fine, but in real life it was just not good. And their band, so he becomes the manager of their band. Mm-hmm. Even the band is not good. And it's like the soundtrack was okay, but the whole movie, the premise, the everything. And it's just like, George, what did you do? And this kind of felt like the downfall of George Lucas, because I think he got involved with a couple of other things that were just horrible as well.
Yeah. So this was only produced by George. He was
It was.
an executive producer. I think the other one you're going to talk about may have had some Lucasfilm involvement as well, if I remember correctly. But where you're going is exactly correct. We're 3 years from the release of 3 years out from the release of Return of the Jedi. And this was like that first thing that people had heard George was working on, that he was involved in. And the Star Wars nuts were going, okay, this is George Lucas. Midas touch. He can't do anything wrong.
When George Lucas made Star Wars, we all clapped and cheered. It was the greatest movie that I had seen in years. And after Empire and Jedi, we wondered what was next. But then came a movie that no one could expect. It was Howard the Duck. Had he lost his mind? 'Cause watching Howard the Duck almost made me go blind. Han Solo and Chewie were so much fun for sure, but a duck meets girl romance ain't what I wanna endure. It was Howard the Duck. Had he lost his mind? 'Cause watching Howard the Duck almost made me go blind.
Unreal. You can't be.
Introducing.
Yeah, Dad?
It's Howard, thank you.
Howard, the Duck, Daphne, defender of truth,
That must be quite a responsibility.
justice,
I'm suing.
and nice swimming.
So, hats off to George. He's a legend, it's true. Even if he gave us this foul movie right out of the blue, it was Howard the Duck. Had he lost his mind? 'Cause watching Howard the Duck almost made me go blind. It was Howard the Duck. Had he lost his mind? 'Cause watching Howard the Duck almost made me go blind.
And it's a Marvel character.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. Comic book fans are excited for it. We know that Howard the Duck, the comic book, has a very adult tone to it.
Yeah.
Here's what I think one of the reasons it was very disappointing. The title character is a talking duck. So families think that it's okay to go see, right?
Yeah,
Let's bring
this
the
is
whole
not a-
family. Junior, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. They'll love it. He's like Donald. He's not like Donald.
No.
And then you have the romance, and it's a romance that gets physical. Let's just put it that way. It's just nutty, and I really like Leah Thompson too. I really like her as an actress, and she gives it her all in this movie. The one thing I might say that I felt differently about was the music that the band produces, because I still can't get that Howard the Duck theme song out of my head.
No, it's
Howard the Duck. I love that for that one at the end. And I think Thomas Dolby helped write that particular song. It's the one where the credits play over at the end when Howard gets on stage and plays the guitar and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. But as a whole, I'm going to agree with you that the movie was an incredible disappointment and
just awful.
too risque for families, and the true comic book nuts, they didn't like it either because it wasn't true enough to the original source material.
Yeah, no, I agree.
What about the next one, Scott?
The next one, same year, 1986, same George Lucas executive producer.
Yep.
This one is Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And the thing that creeped me out, so Jim Henson, I was a huge fan of, I want to say it was in 82, it was either 82 or 83, Dark Crystal.
Dark
right?
Crystal.
So you had Jim Henson with these large Muppets, right?
Yeah.
People, bigger than people-sized Muppets. And I really enjoyed Dark Crystal. And so it's, George Lucas, Jim Henson, Terry Jones from Monty Python. And oh my gosh,
you're not even mentioning the thing I was most excited about. Come on.
Yeah. All right. The big star, Jennifer Connelly.
No.
Okay. David Bowie. I'm just kidding.
I do like Jennifer Connelly, but yes.
Bowie's in it. But I can't remember if this is before or after Ziggy Stardust, probably after.
After.
But he's got that same sort of Ziggy Stardust persona. And it's opposite a 16-year-old girl, and it was so creepy. It was horrible. You've got this mid-40s-year-old guy and a 16-year-old heroine, and he steals a child, and they're throwing the child in the air. They're tossing it back and forth to all these gremlins. And it's just, I'm freaking out. The storyline was just
bizarre.
Weird. It was just bizarre. So out there. And okay, the music was good. But
yeah, the music was good.
But the whole storyline, David Bowie being as creepy as he possibly could, which is what the character was. And it just was, I don't know. I couldn't get into it. And I know there are a lot of people who love Labyrinth. I'm not one of them. You are.
So. I am. I own it on DVD. I like Labyrinth quite a bit. But at the same time, I did not like the way that the infant was being handled, and the infant was supposed to be under the Jennifer Connelly's character's care and dropped the ball, and the child was abducted, and of course the movie is part of it is the quest to get that child back. It's a fun film. I like it. The thing that's great about art, and movies definitely fall into the category, is two people can see the same film, and we did have similar reactions, but ultimately when it comes to the whole package, we feel differently about this one.
Yeah.
Unrelated, you like Time Bandits?
Love Time Bandits.
Okay. I just checking in, making sure.
That's Terry Jones too, right?
Making sure we can still be friends. Gilliam, I think, was the director.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah. Okay, cool. So last movie, I have to tell you that there's a film that came out in 1980, I believe. Has a little song in it from Kenny Loggins, I'm All in a Dancing Gopher, that became one of my all-time favorite films, at least at the time. It's not in my top 10 or 15 list now, but at the time, it was the advent of VCRs, and I think I probably saw this movie. I'm talking about Caddyshack. I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate, but 15 or 20 times. A lot. Anytime it seemed like we were getting together with pizza to play cards or anything, and we would go to the local Video America store to rent out not only the movie, but also the VCR, because we were none of our homes had VCRs yet. Every time we did that, there was at least an argument to rent Caddyshack again, just because it's so much fun. Great cast. I love the actors in it. So you got Chevy Chase, right? But really, the reason this movie is so darn successful, in my mind, are Ted Knight and Rodney Dangerfield. They're just so good in this movie.
They are.
So the big disappointment is 1988's follow-up, Caddyshack 2. Both movies, I believe, were written by Harold Ramis, but Harold he was a reluctant screenwriter for Caddyshack 2 because the studio was going to make it, whether or not he wrote it. They told him, hey, might as well be the guy, because we're going to make this movie and someone's going to write the script. And the whole idea, the reason that the studio was so gung-ho on making it was Rodney Dangerfield had agreed to come back. Chevy was going to come back, but it was going to be more of a glorified cameo. He wasn't going to be in it as much, but Rodney Dangerfield's character was going to be in it a whole lot more. And Dangerfield had signed on. He'd taken an advance on it. And he was actually, Ramis and Dangerfield were talking about the script, and Dangerfield was providing feedback. And somewhere along the way, Dangerfield got cold feet. Didn't like the way the script was turning out. And he backs out of the project for Caddyshack 2. And Ramis thinks it's dead at this point, but the studio is not taking no for an answer. So they go and they hire an actor, a comedian named Jackie Mason. And there may be Jackie Mason fans out there. Here's where I apologize to those Jackie Mason fans. I don't think the guy's very funny. And Ramis didn't think he was going to be great on screen either. And he went to the studio. Hey, this just isn't going to work. Either go back to Dangerfield, figure out how to fix this, get him back in the movie, or let's drop it. But ultimately, the studio took Ramis's script and had some more rewrites done. And, you know, the movie now focuses on Jackie Mason's character. Chevy's still there in a glorified cameo. You've got Jonathan Silverman. I'm trying to think who else. Oh, and Dan Aykroyd. Bill Murray has said no to his character that he played, the guy that was the groundskeeper who's hunting the gopher. So you've got Dan Aykroyd as a new character, like a prepper, one of these survivalist guys, who similarly is going to have adventures with the gopher.
Will you please suck out the poison?
It's just an absolute mess. Ramis was right. Jackie Mason, at least in my opinion, couldn't carry the movie as the main character. Chevy does not appear happy to be in the film all that much, at least in his interactions that he had with the director. I think their director's name was Alan Arkush. It was a bad idea. It may have been a better idea if Dangerfield had agreed to do it, but there's something about Rodney Dangerfield. Audiences identify with that. I get no respect kind of guy. We all identify with that a little bit because we all feel in our heart of hearts that we get no respect. Jackie Mason's character, I don't think audiences connected with it. That movie is one I've only seen once in the movie theater, and I may have dozed off a time or two. I don't feel like there were that many genuine laughs in it. And the magic, even though it had a Kenny Loggins song, they did everything they could to try to recreate the magic. It was so absent and just a messy movie from 1988.
I agree. It may have been okay with Rodney Dangerfield. I know Harold Ramis wrote it, but it just didn't have the same. They were writing Caddyshack the day before. They were putting script together the day before. They just had this broad interpretation of what they wanted to do. And you can't recreate that by writing the whole movie. And you get Bill Murray, and you get Dan Aykroyd's not a replacement for Bill Murray either, although I love Dan Aykroyd. And Jackie Mason, I'm with you. He may have been funny in the 50s. I don't know that he was. I don't even know that he was funny in the 50s. And
was he in the 50s? I know he feels old and felt old.
Maybe I'm just thinking he's old. Maybe he wasn't back then, but I thought he came up with Carl Reiner and
I don't know if he did.
Mel Brooks, and I thought he was part of that crowd, but I may be wrong.
I don't know his history, and it's possible that he did have like a TV history, a classic TV history. I'm not aware of it. He came into prominence as on Broadway and as a comedian during the mid-'80s. But you're right. He had to have some sort of history prior to that because he was already older. He was Rodney Dangerfield older.
And you say that, and I still remember just a little known movie with Rodney in it called Back to School, where of all things, he was a collegiate diver, springboard diver. And his final dive at the end is just worth seeing the whole movie.
Such a fun movie. I love Rodney Dangerfield films. And Back to School may have been the kind of the high watermark. Caddyshack, of course, too. Yeah. There's just Dangerfield was on a tear there for a little bit. And there's just something about his character. He had the ability to carry a movie, whereas, not so much with Jackie Mason, at least. Yeah. I don't know if we saw him again in any other movies, and certainly not as a lead character, I don't think. All right. There's our movies. Supergirl, Howard the Duck, Labyrinth, and Caddyshack 2. All movies we thought would be great, but they weren't. All right. Thank you again, my friend, for joining me for another episode of Wide World of Sodas. And thanks to each one of you for hanging out with us for a little bit. Even though you couldn't enjoy the soda, at least hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. And we'll talk to you all soon. Be well, everyone.
You are special.
You didn't have to do it, but you did. So thank you very much for your support, for your support, for your support. Thank you very much for your support.
Click on that thumbnail cause it's time to go. Dave's got the classics, let the memories flow. TV shows and movies that we all hold so dear. On his YouTube channel he's keeping memories near. Dave Sundstrom, bringing back the good stuff, oh yeah.